So our essential question for today, we're going to be looking at the three major people that helped the boy King Edward VI rule during his short 6-year reign. Who were the three major people that helped Edward VI rule, and what influence did they have on his reign? That's what we're looking at today. Please put the essential question into your note-taking books. As Dengmo, Jay, and Nick just told us, we've already met two of these people. We know a huge influence on Edward, and his most trusted advisor is going to be Thomas Cranmer, the Archbishop of Canterbury, the head of the English Church. And remember, Thomas Cranmer had been Archbishop of Canterbury for Edward's father, Henry VIII, as well. It was Thomas Cranmer that figured out how to legally get Henry VIII the annulment he wanted from Catherine of Aragon, his first wife. So Thomas Cranmer's been around for a while, and now he's entering into his later years. He's an old man at this point. The second person you've already met is Edward VI's uncle, Edward Seymour. Remember, Edward's mama is Jane Seymour, so Edward Seymour is his uncle. Edward Seymour is the oldest child in the Seymour family. We're going to be looking at Edward's reign as well, with the Duke of Somerset, his uncle Edward Seymour, helping him. Raise your hand if you have not gotten the essential question into your book yet and you need another second. Raise your hand if you are not ready for the next slide. All right, here we go. Take your time here. This is a big slide. Pencils down, listen first, and then casually put the important information in. This is Edward Seymour. He is the oldest brother of Jane Seymour, Edward VI's mama. When Henry VIII died, it was Edward Seymour that took control of the council that was going to help the young 9-year-old Edward rule. Now, Edward Seymour, before Henry VIII died, had proven himself as a good soldier. He had gone up to Scotland. He actually led a decent campaign there. Campaign means like a series of military battles. But Edward Seymour did not seem to be able to handle the pressures of ruling the country. His 3 years in power, from 1547 to 1550, were not seen as a good time in England. There were rebellions. There was economic instability, as English money was devalued, and inflation, meaning the money was worth less than it was and prices were going up. During this time period, Edward Seymour was supposed to be helping Edward VI to run the country. But remember, who is really the king? Edward Seymour or Edward VI? Who do you think, Nick? Who do you think, Jay? Who's really in charge? Who's supposed to be in charge? The king or the Lord Protector?
Maybe in this case scenario, the Lord Protector.
It's interesting that you say that. And that makes sense, right? Because the Lord Protector is a man, right? But that's not actually how it worked in England at the time. Even though Edward VI was 9 years old at the time that he took power, he still is the king. And so the Lord Protector, the person who has the power of the king, is supposed to be ruling in his name. He's supposed to be ruling to help Edward, not taking power for himself. Edward Seymour had a habit of trying to keep power for himself, and Edward Seymour also had another bad habit of not listening to the other counselors in the council that were supposed to help Edward rule. It seemed like Edward Seymour was trying to be like a mini king, and this made him very unpopular. Take a break, put these basic in your notes. Make sure you have the name Edward Seymour, the Duke of Somerset, in your notes, and then we're going to talk about one of the most interesting things that happened during this time, his own brother trying to take his Lord Protector title away from him. This is a fun one. Daisy, Nick, Amy, if you can, please keep your cameras on. Thank you, guys. Edward Seymour, Duke of Somerset, he helped to rule from 1547 to 1550. It's actually really 1549, but 1550 is because that's when the next one comes. So get those basics in there. Edward Seymour, the Duke of Somerset, the oldest brother of Edward VI's mother, Jane Seymour, was the Lord Protector and running the country during the early reign of Edward VI. So now during this time period, there were other people that were not happy with Edward Seymour seeming to try to take all the power for himself while Edward was a boy, 9, 10, 11 years old. The main person that was trying to take advantage of this was actually Edward Seymour's own younger brother. His name was Thomas Seymour. Thomas Seymour is a very interesting character at this point. Thomas Seymour never seemed to be happy with his position. This is interesting too, because the Seymour family was not a powerful family before. Jane Seymour, Edward Seymour, Thomas Seymour, their parents, their father was just a baron, a knight, the lowest of nobles. The only thing that brought them to power is that Jane Seymour married Henry VIII, and they had a son together. And this brought the Seymours from very low nobles all the way to the top of English society. But Thomas Seymour did not seem to appreciate how far he had risen already. During the early reign of Edward, Thomas Seymour is a noble. He's head of the English Navy, but he wants the power that his brother has. He thinks he can do better. He starts to look for ways to get more powerful. For example, Thomas Seymour got married to Catherine Parr. Anybody remember who Catherine Parr was? Who was Catherine Parr, Jay? Do you remember?
The last
Wow.
wife of Henry VIII.
Very good memory, Jay. Right, Catherine Parr was the final surviving wife of Henry VIII. Thomas Seymour married her to raise his position in the English court even higher. But that wasn't even enough for him. So after Henry VIII died, Thomas Seymour and his new wife, Catherine Parr, had Elizabeth, Edward's sister, Henry VIII's daughter, come to live with them. She was only a teenager at the time, but Thomas Seymour saw another opportunity. He's like, marrying the widow of King Henry VIII is good, but marrying Elizabeth, the sister of the king, that's even more powerful. And so he started to make plans to marry the young Elizabeth to raise his value even higher, and then possibly use this power to rebel against his brother and maybe even rebel against the young king. Of course, this marriage was not allowed. His brother said he could not do it, and you need permission to marry someone that high up, especially because he's already married at this point, right? Things start to get worse for Thomas Seymour. Edward Seymour leaves the country for a short period of time. He goes up to Scotland again to fight. During this time, Thomas Seymour tried to become more popular with the boy king. For example, even though Edward was king, he didn't actually have money in his pocket to go do things. That money was controlled by his uncle Edward. So Thomas Seymour started to do little things like slip Edward some pocket money so he could buy things for himself. He tried to make himself like the good uncle, the popular uncle to the boy king. Of course, he plotted to marry Elizabeth behind his brother's back. And when his brother Edward was away, he started to speak openly about his brother's mistakes, talking openly what a bad Lord Protector he was, and speaking to people about if they would be in favor of rebelling and making Thomas and not Edward Seymour the new Lord Protector. Thomas didn't have the support he needed, however. It was dangerous. And finally, he takes things way too far. And here's the crazy story. The night was January 16th, 1549, and we still don't know exactly why he did it or what the plan was, but he creeped into the castle where Edward VI was sleeping. He had a loaded gun with him. Mistakes happened pretty quickly. Edward had a young Cocker Spaniel dog, a puppy, and he woke him up. The dog started barking, and Thomas Seymour killed the king's dog, shot him dead with his gun. This, of course, woke everybody up. Thomas Seymour was caught, put into the Tower of London in jail, and he said that he was just trying to go there to take care of the king or protect the king, blah, blah, blah. We don't know. I don't think he was there to kill the king. Maybe he wanted to kidnap the king, and having the king in his custody he thought would give him more power. It didn't matter, though. He was caught outside the king's apartment with a loaded gun and shot the king's dog. 2 months later, March 1549, Edward Seymour is forced to sign the execution order for his own brother, and Thomas Seymour is beheaded at his own brother's request. Questions so far?